Today we have the 2018 Volkswagen Passat GT. This is a V6 sedan that you can get for under $30,000. Welcome everyone, I'm Nolan Merrill for Everyman Driver today. Volkswagen says this is an American-born sports sedan. We're going to look at everything and go for a test drive. Let's get started. I want to give a big thank you to Volkswagen for sending this car to me to review for you guys. I also want to give a big thank you to Dave Erickson of Everyman Driver for having me on the channel today. Let's get started. Thank you for tuning in everybody for this 2018 Passat GT review. So starting in the front, we get the R-Line Sport bumpers. Not to mention we get the GTI inspired red lining around the grille. And this is a glossy black grille. I do think it looks pretty good. I really like the black accents that we have on here. Not to mention we do have LED daytime running lights and LED headlights. The creases on the hood right there. Coming around that corner, we do get these 19-inch Tornado alloy wheels. 235 width tires are sitting on those. The GT fender badge right there. Not to mention the black mirror caps as well as the black side skirt right there. I really like these black accents that we have on the front. Back, we even have a black roof. I think the thing that could really top that black roof off is to actually make the pillars black from the hood all the way to the back. Now since this is the GT, it's the sporty version of the Passat, we do have a sport tuned suspension with a lower ride height down by about 0.6 inches. We have front vented disc brakes in the front, and then in the back we have solid rear disc brakes. Like I was talking about the black accents, we even have a little deck lid spoiler that's black right there. And even as we go back even further, we have LED taillights, the GT badging, and then we actually have a custom tuned dual exhaust, and I'll show you a clip of that in just a little bit. I'd love to know what you all think of this Passat. Please leave your thoughts down below. Let's look at the trunk. Getting into the trunk of the Jetta, we do have a little touchpad underneath of there on this GT. And that'll give us 15.9 cubic feet. And this is a pretty good size opening. We do still have the exposed metal on both sides, but it really doesn't impede a whole lot. One thing I'm not a fan of is the battery's actually behind there, so that kind of cuts into some space. But there is a pretty good size pocket over on that right side. I would like to see some actual hooks in here. We have a couple little anchors on both sides, but there's not really any hooks for a grocery bag or anything, plus an anchor on both sides there. We have tabs to pull that seat down for a 60-40 split, and it's a pretty smooth transition going into the back. So the key fob for the Passat is the classic kind of flip the key open style. Remote start is available on the SEL Premium as well as the hands-free trunk opening, but it is a smart key system with a touch sensor in the back to unlock it, and to lock it, just put your finger on the lines like that. Now the front seats of this Passat GT have a little bit of bolstering. They're called Comfort Sport seats. They're actually a two-tone VTEX leatherette. So the inserts are gray, the outsides are darker, blackish, dark gray material, and they are fairly comfortable. They are 8-way power with lumbar support, and overall, this is pretty comfortable. This armrest on the door is comfortable. This armrest is soft enough. One complaint though is the steering wheel does have a good amount of travel in and out, both up and down, but I just wish it would come a little bit lower. It just seems to be kind of sitting up at an angle, even at its lowest setting. But other than that, I have good space at 5'9". I have the seat fairly far down, and I do feel like I'm sitting up a little high in the cab for being, you know, a sportier sedan. I can put a fist above my head, so that's always a plus. Typical hard plastic next to your front knee, but overall, pretty good place to be. Now we'll take a quick look at the interior before we go for a test drive. We do have a soft surface up above and where your arm will go down here, soft armrest, hard plastics elsewhere, but we do have all 4 automatic windows, a nice solid grab handle, a pretty big bottle holder with a decent sized storage compartment that goes a mysteriously long ways back. And I've been able to fit a good amount of stuff in there. Shut the door, not a bad slam, not quite as solid as that Jetta that I just reviewed, but taking a look at this interior, it's certainly not the most updated or modern looking, but it is practical and it is easy to get used to. So starting out with this steering wheel, this is leather wrapped. We do have controls for our cruise control and volume on the left. controls for our multifunction display there on the right. To start this thing up, foot on the brake, buttons right there. It actually has a nice little rumble to it for being just a regular V6 sedan. We'll take a look at the instrument cluster. As you can see, two big analog gauges on the sides with the little ones inside. Plus we have our multifunction display. Now you can get a premium colored multifunction display on the higher trims, but this is pretty basic and it's pretty pixely, honestly, and I've only driven this 26 miles so far, but when I go for the test drive, I will have driven it further, and I will update you on some updated miles per gallon. We do have rear traffic alert, blind spot monitoring, and our front emergency braking, all standard on this vehicle. As you can see, I can scroll through a decent amount of stuff, but it's just not very nice looking. Moving back, you will notice that this also is a flat bottom steering wheel, just like that last Jetta was that I reviewed. Light controls over there, and a really interestingly large compartment with coin holders, kind of a secret compartment there. Moving over across the dash, this dash is soft touch, big air vents right here, some little fake carbon fiber pieces running across. Some people don't like them, but depends what you think. It's just a trim piece. We do have a 6.3 inch touchscreen right here, and it does have proximity sensing, so get your hand close and the selections will pop up. It is easy to use. It's definitely not the most updated or modern looking. We do actually have volume and tuning knobs there, so that is always welcome. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard as well. That's a plus. Moving down, we have our heated seat functions on the outside, plus dual zone climate control, which is standard on this vehicle, and it has worked well for me so far. Going down a little lower, we have a 12 volt, a USB, and an auxiliary port with a decent sized cubby hole right in front of our 6-speed shifter that does have a leather boot, push button start, and you can put it all the way back into S mode, which does make it more aggressive for the transmission shifting, and I will go through that later. You can also tip it over and then shift your own gears, plus or minus right there. Going into reverse, of course, we get a backup camera, but these are not dynamic lines even when you turn the wheel, so it's just a standard screen like that. Coming back a little further, we do have a regular e-brake right here. No push button, no foot pedal, but these bottle holders are large and accommodating for my big bottle, both of them. In fact, this one is a little bit deeper than this one up here, just kind of the setback on a decline. This area right here does actually fit a wallet, an iPhone Plus, so something can stand in there without falling down. The armrest is a little bit firm, but it is a soft touch material. It does slide out like that, and then it opens up for one tier, which is actually pretty skinny but fairly deep, and there's a 12 volt power outlet down there as well. Going over to the glove box, it is lockable, it's soft opening, and it's illuminated. Pretty nice glove box for this segment. Overall, not a bad interior. These visors do have vanity mirrors and lights up above, and the entire visor will slide out. On this trim, we don't have the dimming mirror, but we do have the little flip switch in the back to access that. Sunglass holder does have a nice textured grippy liner on the inside, and it accommodates bigger glasses. Also, we have our moonroof control right there, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of a unique one. So you turn this dial, for example, let's say we just turn it one notch. That will open up just part way. Then if I want to turn it all the way or even just a little more, you can adjust how far it opens, which is actually kind of cool. Or you can push it up just to tilt it. And then just to turn it off, just like that. We don't have LED interior lights here, but you can control it when the doors open, turn them on with each button. Just like that. In terms of visibility, turning around, visibility really isn't too bad for a sedan like this. That headrest is up right there, but you can lower that down. A window in the corner pocket by the pillar, not too bad at all. Now the back seat of the Passat, considering this is a mid-size sedan, this is actually pretty spacious. I have a lot of room for my legs, pretty good amount of room for my feet, even with that seat fairly far down. Like I said, 5'9", sitting behind myself, no issues whatsoever. Over on the doors, we do have a pretty much the same material on the upper, the armrest, same grab handle, and a pretty good sized bottle holder again. We also have rear air vents that you can actually close to, you know, conserve some air if there's nobody back here. Otherwise, you can open them up and you get a pretty nice flow coming from those, and a USB port back here. We also do have this center folding armrest, which is soft. It does have 3 cup holders. And when I'm sitting up tall, I can sit up tall with no issues. My hair's not touching. I can put, you know, my hand above my head. So there's a little bit of room. And if I move over to the middle does have a pretty good size hump in it, but I can sit here, sit up tall, and my hair is just barely touching it. Plus we have grab handles on both sides and a light right there in the middle. One more thing to mention is that these seats actually seem to be high enough up to give me a decent amount of thigh support. So that's nice, so your knees aren't way up into your chest. We are now behind the wheel in the Passat GT. So starting out with the powertrain, powering this Passat with the V6, we have a 3.6 liter V6 that is direct injected. It comes with a 6-speed Tiptronic direct shift gearbox, a DSG transmission, and that puts out 280 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, and that torque comes out at 2,500 RPMs. The horsepower comes out at just about redline at 6,200 RPMs. Now, if you don't go with the GT and you go with the 4-cylinder, you'll get a 2-liter turbo. And that 2-liter turbo will put out 184 pound-feet of torque and get you up to 36 miles per gallon on the highway. This V6 version that we have here will get us 19 in the city and 28 on the highway. So some of my first impressions with this Passat is that it's fairly comfortable. Even though it has a sport-tuned suspension, it's still a pretty comfortable riding car. We're going to get on it here in just a second. We do have an S mode, sport mode, but we are in drive right now. And here we go, pedal down. So it doesn't sound too bad for a V6 sedan, does it? It's definitely got more of a rumble than you would expect in some other sedans. Like I said earlier in the video, it has a custom tuned dual exhaust and it sounds pretty good. It's a pretty throaty growl, but when you're up to highway speeds and you're cruising, you don't notice it too much, so it's not obtrusive into the cabin. As I was saying, this is a pretty comfortable riding vehicle. You can certainly feel and you notice everything. It honestly feels a little bit floaty for being a sporty suspension, but it's kind of got a pretty good balance of, you know, decent handling, comfortable ride without being overbearing one way or the other. The sport-tuned suspension is not as sporty as I would have hoped, but it's a good daily driver with a little bit more flair and a little bit more zest. Also with the noise, I did do a decibel meter on a louder road at 55 miles per hour and on the interstate, a smoother road at 75 miles per hour. Numbers will be on the screen. The road noise can definitely get in here. There's also some wind noise around the corners, but it's not necessarily loud, but it's also not quiet. The brakes in this car are a little soft and spongy. They don't give you a lot of feedback, and that's something that I don't particularly care for. Now let's put it into S mode. And right away, once we put it into S mode, the RPMs will stay higher. Throttle. And it's got some good pull. And it's gonna hold those RPMs still over 3,000 RPMs. So you can have some fun with this thing. That's probably my favorite thing with this car, is that the S mode actually does help it be fairly sporty. Going around this turn, see how it handles? Not too bad. Obviously I didn't race around that corner, but it's a pretty fun car. I wish the steering was a little bit tighter. The steering's a little bit loose, and there's definitely some lean in this car going around these turns. But I love the sound. I really love the sound. Alright, another thing with this is we do have paddle shifters. They're very small on the steering wheel, but they are back there. I'm going to put it over into the plus and minus, and then you can shift with the lever or with your paddle shifters. So, second gear, good pull. Third, fourth. All right, so it's got a pretty good pull at certain RPMs, but the paddles are not super quick enough to have some fun. As I was saying, some body roll in these turns, but it's definitely forgivable. Not bad at all. Still a fairly fun car that you can kind of toss around a little bit. So that is going to wrap everything up. Thank you so much to Dave Erickson of Everyman Driver for having me on the channel. My channel is called Prime Autotainment. Please be sure to check out my videos and think about subscribing. I've got a lot of different videos. Dave's got a lot of different videos, so please be sure to check those out. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.